Viva the Rotary!
Viva la Rotary!
We don't know how it goes. Gotta wait for you. When something is wrong, then straighten it out.
Viva la Rotary! For nothing is worse than a fear or a doubt. Viva la Rotary! Viva la Rotary! Viva la Rotary! Truth is our right, love is our might. Viva la Rotary! The grooming of people is duly reclaimed. Viva la Rotary! Let's carry on business with faith to our name. Viva la Rotary! Viva la Rotary! Viva la Rotary! Truth is our right, love is our might. Viva la Rotary!
All right, number 9. God bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
All right, you all are in fine voice this morning. Yes, Steve has a invocation.
Creator God, you gathered us today in the heart of summer. Help us to slow down. Yes, there's much to do, but help us to slow down and enjoy the beauty of this time of year. Slow down as we walk and talk with friends. Take an extra minute or two as we help a child pick dandelions and flowers. As we make that call to someone we haven't talked to in a long time. Help us to slow down and see the blessings that you have given us. And in that slowing down, help us also realize that with blessings come responsibilities to reach out to others, to share what we've been given, to inspire, to build friendships, to do so much more. So we ask your blessing on everyone here as we leave today and go out into the summer. Help us to slow down. Amen.
Thanks, Steve. Be seated. Well, as you can probably tell by looking around, a few of us are wearing these really loud shirts. There isn't a circus in town, but the shirts are being worn by at least a few of us that were on the international project trip this past spring. And we're going to be presenting a program today. But for the Rotary Minute today, I thought I would just share a little bit about how we are able to do this. And not just as a club, but international projects like this are at the heart of what makes Rotary Rotary. And the funding of that largely comes from the Rotary Foundation. And many of you might be wondering where the Rotary Foundation came from or what that is. And so I wanted to just read something to you about the history of the Rotary Foundation. And one of these names is going to sound familiar to many of you. In 1917, RI President Arch Crump proposed that an endowment be set up for the purpose of doing good in the world. In 1928, when the endowment fund had grown to more than $5,000 U.S. funds, it was renamed the Rotary Foundation, and it became a distinct entity within Rotary International. 5 trustees, including Klump, were appointed to hold, invest, manage, and administer all of its property as a single trust for the furtherance of the purposes of RI. 2 years later, the foundation made its first grant of $500 to the International Society for Crippled Children. The organization, created by Rotarian Edgar F. Daddy Allen, later grew into, anybody know? Easter Seals, that's right. That's right, started by a Rotarian. The Great Depression and World War II both impeded the foundation's growth, but the need for lasting world peace generated great post-war interest in its development. After Rotary's founder, Paul P. Harris, died in 1947, contributions began pouring into Rotary International. and the Paul Harris Memorial Fund was created to build the foundation. That year, the first foundation program, the forerunner of Rotary Foundation Ambassadorial Scholarships, was established. In 1965 through 1966, 3 new programs were launched: Group Study Exchange, Awards for Technical Training, and grants for activities in keeping with the objectives of the Rotary Foundation, which was later called matching grants. The Health, Hunger, and Humanity, or 3H grants program, was launched in 1978, and Rotary Volunteers was created as a part of that program in 1980. Polio Plus was announced in, anybody know the year?
1988.
1984. 1984. That's just what it says here, Jerry. You might be right. I just don't know what it says. And actually, we're coming to the next part. And the next year, Rotary grants for university teachers. The first peace forums were held in 1977 through 1988. I'm sure that's what you were thinking of, Jerry, right? Leading to the Foundation's Peace and Conflict Studies program. Throughout this time, support of the Foundation grew tremendously. Since the first donation of $26.50 in 1917, that actually was probably a lot of money back then. Anyway, it has received contributions totaling more than $1 billion. More than $70 million was donated in 2003 through 2004 alone. Who was our president of this club that year? Anybody know? 0304?
John Vestchen.
John Vestchen. Way to go, John. All right.
Yeah.
To date, more than 1 million individuals have been recognized as Paul Harris Fellows. That is, people who have given at least $1,000 to the annual programs fund or have had that amount contributed in their name. Such strong support, along with Rotarian involvement worldwide, ensures a secure future for the Rotary Foundation as it continues its vital work for international understanding and world peace. So that's the Rotary Foundation, the history of it, how we got here, and how there are funds available for doing projects like the one we're going to be talking about today. This week's thanks I want to throw out there. First, to the Rotarians that braved the heat, the volunteers last week at Summertime by George. I think it was probably close to 100 degrees out there, if it wasn't 100. And I'm sure it probably was when some of the people were first setting up. So those of you that were out there, pat yourselves on the back, especially Diane. I know she was out there the whole time. But also especially Mark Henry and Todd Devosky. Are they both here? Mark is here. I know Todd is here today. But they were lugging that big heavy cart around with beverages in it in that 98 degrees heat or whatever it was. So our thanks to Mark and the rest of the volunteers. And also to Diane Hagelman. Is she here today? Diane? You have to thank her and recognize her. Among others already, she's already sold all of her tickets. So pat her on the back. You see Diane, and she even told me she's not usually a salesperson, but these tickets almost sell themselves. And she says it isn't the vehicle that sells the ticket, but when people hear about or they experience Summertime by George and the great event that that's become for our community, they see it as an opportunity to give back to that. So just make the effort, and the tickets kind of sell themselves. So, but recognize Diane and you see her. Our greeter today was, I think, John Bodette, wasn't it? Yes, John. Do we have any visiting Rotarians? Yeah, let's clap for John first.
I'll tell you what a great honor it was to be the first greeter under our new Sergeant at Arms administration. The orientation was fantastic. The follow-up, the calls, the letters. Our visiting Rotarian is Warren Teaton from Chicago. Here it's under an assumed identity, so there you go.
Thanks, John. How about guests of Rotarians? Do we have any guests over along the wall here? No? Okay. Well, I have my daughter up here again, Madison. You know Madison by first name now. She was on her trip, so I brought her along as a guest today. How about down the middle? Any other guests of Rotarians today? Against the wall? All right, that means we get to talk about all kinds of fun stuff. We don't have any guests in here to listen in. No, it should be. But thanks. Good to see all of you here today. How about announcements? Diane, I know you've got something for Summertime by George.
Okay. Yeah, last week was definitely hot. We had about 2,500 people there, which is pretty good since we have it in the earlier time and the heat and so forth. Okay, tomorrow we have Johnny Holmes, sponsored by U.S. Bank. It's going to be 85 and sunny. Our first perfect night with a popular band. We are going to be, it's going to be huge tomorrow night. Huge. So make sure you make your assignments because we're going to need everybody out there. Actually I got one, but I need somebody in the tavern just from 4:45 to 5:30, so if somebody could do that, let me know. We just have a couple workers that are going to be late. We're going to be having 2 lines for ticket sales in the tavern. And then lastly, I sent out the July and August schedule yesterday, and I made some errors. And Bob Mahold, I got your email. You know, when I was doing that schedule, I knew somebody talked to me, and I was trying so hard to remember it, and your name and face just went right by. So I have to make a couple of changes. So those will be done this afternoon, and I'll email a new schedule out, and I'll highlight any name changes, so you can just look for highlights if you've already scheduled yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. And you do so much out there. I'll ask a little clemency of Tony if he's doing any opportunities today. We appreciate your work. Raleigh, if you want to make your way up here, I'm going to call on Dave first. Dave Tripp, are you here to make your announcement?
Raleigh's always
Okay, he's already on the way. Okay. Raleigh's got an announcement about the upcoming golf tournament.
Thank you, President Drew. Greetings. How's everybody today? Let's try that again. How's everybody today? That's a little better. All right. You've received numerous emails and pieces of paper on your table. I took a chance, and I put these on your tables today to sign up for the Rotary Golf Tournament Summer Social, which is less than 2 weeks away at the St. Cloud Country Club. I have no idea how I ended up at the St. Cloud Country Club, but what the heck. Anyway, I took a chance and put these on your tables because if you all fill them out, I can't handle that many people for a golf tournament. So, be prudent and make your decisions. We're within 2 weeks. Our goal is to have at least 50 players. We're over halfway. You received an email yesterday, and thank you, David, for helping with that. With the sign-up, we have also sent out inquiries for whole sponsors. Thank you for that. We have reached out to the St. Cloud Granite, the Great River, and the Sartell Rotary Clubs for them to participate as well. And Marv, thank you for dropping off the prize already. Way to go, ahead of the curve. But we're also open for prizes to be donated. Peg Gustafson will do her usual getting money out of your pocket for the raffle at the tournament itself. We've already arranged for 84 and sunny, not much wind, 2 weeks from yesterday. So please, you have opportunity to come and play golf. You can't stay for dinner, come play golf. That's $50 if you can come and play golf. And stay for dinner, that's $65. And if you're just coming for dinner, that's $15. We always have a notable complement of Rotary members that don't play golf that come to dinner, but you'll find the entry blanks either on your tables or in an email that Dave Tripp sent out for me yesterday. So please give it strong consideration. It's always a great time, and the net proceeds, of course, are donated to the worthwhile project of the high school student college scholarship. So, any questions at all? And I do have the list of everybody that played last year that hasn't signed up yet, so you'll be hearing from me. So let me know. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Raleigh, you don't have to have a team to sign up, right?
No.
In fact, we encourage you, if you don't know who you're going to be playing with, just sign up as an individual, and it's kind of a good way to have fellowship and mingling and bonding and all that. Just sign up. It's a great event. So, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'm a duffer and a bird watcher, and I like to go to the beach, so in other words, you don't have to have a real skill to have a lot of fun at our annual golf tournament. 2 things. Twins, what's the date of the last Tuesday in July? 31st. Sorry for a lot of confusion when I sent the email out saying it was Tuesday the 28th. And it's the Tuesday the 31st against the White Sox. If you've never seen physically Kevin Youkilis, his batting stance, you've got to go see the White Sox. Now he's there. So please see me immediately, or email or call me, because right now I've just got about 12 to 14 folks that have said, 12 to 14 tickets that have committed, and with that, of course, there won't be a bus, but there can always be the tickets. They're in a great section. It's called the Home Plate Terrace. It's the level just above where all the suites are, between first base and third base, so it's excellent viewing, and they're $34 a seat. Then I sent out some emails earlier on your table. There are these flyers called Fill the Flyer, meaning a New Flyer bus. Last December, New Flyer and Metrobus teamed up, and we had a very successful food drive with our buses in front of Coburn's and Cashwise's. And New Flyer, as a company, held an interdepartmental competition, and they themselves had almost 2 tons of food, or 1 ton of food, and we literally actually filled several buses full of food. So we're thinking for our August 8th, Wednesday night, Summertime by George, that's the day of the Arts and Crafts Festival by George. It starts at 10 o'clock until 9. And we're going to have a competition with hopefully some of the colleagues here and your companies. You don't have to have a company of 50 or 100. You can have 10 in your business, because it's going to be competition by pounds per full-time equivalent. So if you've got 8 full-time and 4 part, you've got 10 FTEs, and so that's how the competition. We're going to have a trophy that'll be, believe me, treasured and prized by the winning company. So it's supposed to be fun, but yet we really do want to raise a ton of food for Catholic Charities and Salvation Army. So I've got extra flyers here, but there are flyers on each table. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I think anybody in here that has been to the Twins game with Rotarians knows how much fun it is, and if you haven't been on one of those, trust us, it's a great time. So, but the time is running really short to sign up. It's, what was it, 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now? What's your deadline, Dave? How soon do you need to know?
Thursday
of this week?
2 days.
Yeah. 2 days. So if you're sitting on the fence right now, or you think it sounds like fun, but you just haven't committed yet, when you leave the meeting today, go back to your office. Tell Dave right afterwards, call him or email him or whatever. It's a great time. It's a great time of fellowship. All right, I covered most. Oh, Len Carlson, are you still in? There he is. Len, you got an announcement.
Yeah, July 24th is 2 weeks from now, and my old standbys are not able to lead singing, so we need somebody to step up and lead the singing. You guys sing so well, we don't want to drop the ball.
How about a volunteer right now? I mean, I know we've got some great voices in here, because I hear them. Anybody willing to lead the songs in 2 weeks? Derek? Because you're gone, yeah, Steve is gone, and John is gone, and Len is gone. So we need somebody else to step up. Who's brave? Is that Justin raising his hand? Excellent. There you go, Justin. And Jim, I know I'm putting you on the spot on this, and I didn't even talk to you about it ahead of time, but you sent me an email about an opportunity with the National Guard to help them out. Really short-term notice on this, but if you just want to share, do you remember enough about that you can tell us? Or?
I have to look it up quick.
Yeah.
But if you are interested, I'll just say, if you're interested, the National Guard group who's not our local group is helping, but another group, they're looking to do something, and they sent an email yesterday asking for help this Saturday and this Sunday in St. Cloud to help with the reintegration of people coming back in. And they say, apologize for the short notice. Well, the rest doesn't matter. They still need some people to help. If you are interested, please just give me a note and I'll forward you the information to assist with that. We do have some folks who work with the National Guard as part of our committee here. But if you have something that you would give a few hours to, either Saturday or Sunday or both, please just give me a quick word. Send me an email at the office, something like that.
This is one of those great opportunities. You've heard me say it before that I believe that good leaders become great when they lead in areas they're passionate about. If you're passionate about helping veterans, this is a great opportunity for you to step up and just champion this and help lead an effort. So I know there are people in here that either are veterans or are passionate about helping them out. And if you're one of those people, contact Jim and he'll give you the details. All right, we need to keep moving here, but I want to give up to 5 minutes for Happy Bucks. Do we have Happy Bucks here today? Yes, Jerry.
Well, I think it's appropriate to congratulate the city of St. Cloud, and in particular the fire and the police people for the Cannon Games. And even though our role was minor in supporting it, it was really a very successful event.
I have to give a happy buck. The t-shirts that we are throwing to the crowd at Summertime by George, we had 400 of them, and we're looking at this box of t-shirts, and it's like, how are we going to throw them? What are we going to do, put rubber bands around them? I didn't like that. And then one morning I went and I picked up my newspaper, and it was in this nice plastic bag. So I called John Gwinnett and I said, hey, can I have a few hundred of those bags? And so he was nice enough to provide those bags. So thanks, John.
Today is the 6-month anniversary of my wife's medical liver transplant, and she's doing fine, and that's something to be very happy about.
I have a couple of happy bucks here. A number of you know my father-in-law, Wayne Smith, who is a past district governor in Indiana and many, many years in Rotary. And he's moved back in with us now, 96 years old, and probably will spend his waning years with us. But having a father-in-law who is a past district governor has proved to be kind of problematic for me. As you can see, I'm dressed kind of casually, and I have a lot of company here in the crowd. But he is what you could describe as a strict constructionist Rotarian, always with a coat and tie, and never without that at a Rotary function. So today I really had to sneak out of the house. And I tell you, it took me about a half an hour on the 4th of July when Diane had assigned me to the elite refuse detail at Summertime by George. It took me about a half an hour to explain to him why I wasn't wearing a coat.
Well, I have 2 happy bucks. Today is my official coming out party. I am now with AIS Planning after being with many years with Northwestern Mutual. So I'm joining Mike Sipe and his team, relearning technology. That's fun. And the second happy buck is the only thing I left in my old office was my Rotary badge. And so I got to storm the castle and get that thing back, I think. I don't know. So here's a buck to help pay for that, whatever I got to do.
Get you a new one.
Many of you know we're kind of, or Think Creative, my business. We're actually merging with another company called Party and Digital, and they're located over by Doctors Park across from the Technical College. So that's really exciting. As part of that, again, because I'm kind of going along with the merger, my wife isn't, but she had an amazing opportunity to become a director of marketing down for a company. It just happens to be way on the other side of the airport, down in the cities. And so because of that, we put our house on the market in the beginning of May. It actually sold in the first showing by Saturday morning. They looked at 9 o'clock, sold that night by 9 p.m. So it's, you hear about all the tragedies or challenges with selling a house. Ours sold right away. So and then with that, we moved to we had to be out within 30 days. So May was really intense, and we actually moved down to a condo right now, but it's right on Lake Minnetonka. We're truly enjoying that.
Dan, I am putting a happy dollar down because I don't have to wear a tie. Don't have to wear the Rotary tie on Tuesday. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to read this to you on the National Guard thing I just brought up here, because it is very specific what they're asking, and many of you would be very useful. It says, the Guards need volunteers to assist veteran job seekers at their 30-day Yellow Ribbon registration training event being held in St. Cloud at the Rivers Edge Convention Center on Saturday, July 14th and Sunday the 15th. We are looking for volunteers willing to provide the resume review and mock interviews, mock behavior-based interviews, that's what it is, behavior-based. We'll provide behavioral-based questions to the volunteers. Volunteers are needed from approximately 1 to 4 to hold 30 to 45-minute one-on-one sessions with returning service members. Free parking will be provided. If interested, send a short resume or in order to match the interest you have with the volunteers, or with the returning soldiers. So that's the information. So if there's something you would do, talk about your work and help interview somebody for something that could be a mock interview, please ask me and I'll send this to you. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure if this is going to be a first or not, but actually I have an unhappy buck. So maybe I need to mark this. Yesterday morning around 11 o'clock, I signed a contract with a Chicago contractor, and I thought, wonderful, I got a job, finally, after God knows how long. And by 5 o'clock, I get an email, sorry, they will not allow non-union fitters on the job, so we lost the project. Thank you.
Well, on that happy note, I'm sorry to hear that. And we're gonna do some opportunities, aren't we, Tony?
This sucks.
Come on up. I know I'm gonna be responsible for at least the broadcast. So, at least, so I'm gonna start doing it in my law. Because one of the things when I asked Tony to do opportunities, I said, I think we need to start going back to finding people who don't wear their pins. I want you to know I didn't wear my pin today, so I'm gonna give you a buck for that.
Thank you, and as you got the indication that there's a new regime here, President Drew is laying down the law. I was going to give you all a break on the pin front, but Drew has revealed himself as a pinhead. So in future, you'll be expected to either wear your pin or pay the consequences. There are some other things I wanted to, it's been a while since I've had this opportunity, and a couple of things. President Jim, first of all, you shouldn't be playing with your phone when somebody's up here.
I'm just putting away the message on the National Guard.
When we had a large delegation from the University of Minnesota, and you were presiding, and I'll admit, I am a university alumnus, but this is a direct quote. You introduced one of the speakers as the alumni director or whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay. I think this is a non-presidential behavior. All right. 5.
Thanks, sir.
John Bodette, June the 12th. What struck me as the longest introduction ever of a speaker. We learned more about John Bodette's educational experience and worldview than I had ever expected to know.
It's on video, no doubt.
So, Chancellor? Yes, it was the Chancellor. We learned more about you than we did the Chancellor. It's interesting too that we should have heard from Dan about attire, because one of the other suggestions to me from the new administration is that we would recognize what we might call sartorial indiscretion among the membership of the club. And the only thing after glancing around today is that I'll need a lot more time on the agenda if we're really going to do that. But be forewarned. Now, Peg, I haven't seen Peg isn't here. Peg isn't here. Okay. Well, I have one last, and I'm afraid it's an unpleasant item.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay. It has come to my attention that there is a dark underbelly to the recent trip to the Dominican Republic. Some behavior that I think was inconsistent with the four-way test. I think you all know who you are, but since you're not stepping up, Drew Holtgren, you've acknowledged, I believe, a fender bender. Now, the details of this, as I am told, is that Drew, while representing all of us in third world country, T-boned some poor taxi cab driver. I'll get to you later. T-boned the car, and then, and this is the truly distressing part, bribed the driver with 600 pesos to make the problem go away. Does the Bar Association know? I have no connection to them, but I'd be concerned if I were you. This is, and then found a body man, according to this signed confession, from across the street to fix the taxi cab's bumper for about 30 pesos.
That was a good deal. It was the truth.
It was pretty fair to opportunity, too.
Okay. I think collectively we're talking at least $5. I've also been told that I have a tendency to be too harsh with the dollar amounts. So we have a new, kinder, gentler regime. Jim Dwyer, Okay. All right, we got an IOU from President Drew, setting a bad tone. This ex-President Jim, I'm told, was unwilling to fly coach with the rest of the and upgraded to first class, and then, and this is a direct quote, lorded it over. Other members of the delegation, is this true?
The first part is, I just sat there, they accepted the lording themselves.
I think lording requires a two-way transaction.
It doesn't, I just sat there and smirked.
All right, and then we have the complaint about the lack of a king-size bed in your accommodations.
No, I had one.
That was post-complaint.
I had no problems where I was.
All right, okay. Now, and then last, so are you producing money over here?
Yeah.
Jurgen.
Oh, I thought, yeah.
I've multiple transgressions here reported to me. One whining about the fact that President Jim got better accommodations. Is this true?
He went and got it.
Okay, that looked like a
I
commission
needed
to
to
me.
move with the view.
And then stopped, not once but twice for traffic violations during what was described to me as a few minutes of driving.
I can tell you that it's very difficult to distinguish yourself to get stuck there.
That's what I'm told, yes, not once but twice. And again, and this is a theme apparently for our delegation, bribing the police.
We haggled him down. It wasn't true. That's the truth, we haggled.
I know
that's not true. Poor Americans are really healthy.
Did a rich American haggling in a third world country truly build goodwill? Okay. All right, and then passing by that for a moment, we'll get back to it. Sneaking out of the restaurant without paying for your breakfast.
At that time, I thought I'd be.
I think you guys need a chaperone. This is out of control. $5. And then I said lastly, but actually there's one more report here. Thank you very much. Aaron Crandall. another stolen breakfast, I'm told. Snuck into the back side of the restaurant using the service elevator. This is true, isn't it? Sometimes you have to ask. And as one of your fellow attorneys pointed out, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
I did pay Jurgen's fine.
That's good, we must be used to it. And that is all I have.
All right, thank you, Tony. It's kind of good to go back to doing some opportunities, as painful as they may be. But anyway, so moving on to the good that was accomplished in the Dominican Republic. I think some good was accomplished down here, and I just shorted us on time here a little bit, so I want to jump right into it. I'm actually going to have Aaron come up and start off the program. So Aaron Crandall.
Well, it was a group of 11 of us, and correct me if I miss anybody, but Jim Dwyer and his wife Jennifer, Jurgen, Pat Edinburgh, myself, Bill Maney, Heather Maney, Steve Jewell, his daughter Mara, Drew, his daughter Madison, and Kenzie. Is that right, buddy? Headed back to the Dominican in April. We met our host there, Hugo, who stayed with us most of the time and helped us through the country and was a great interpreter, although we could have used him in the car when Jurgen was pulled over. Our trip up here, you can see, like Christopher Columbus there in the statue, we decided to return to the Dominican, and unlike Christopher Columbus, we did manage to stay out of jail. Barely. And just speaking for myself, this was one of the highlights that I've ever had. It was a tremendous experience to see the difference that this Rotary group has made in Los Caneos and the difference that we were able to make in that hospital. It was just an amazing experience, and I would fully recommend it to everybody. If you haven't had that opportunity, to consider it the next time we go. So we returned to the Dominican, a small Caribbean island. The island is actually, 2/3 of it is Dominican, 1/3 of it is Haiti. I don't know if anybody can see that fully, but it's large, the Spanish-speaking country, largely Roman Catholic, mixed ethnicity, approximately 10 million people in the space of New Hampshire and Vermont. Very poor country. Jim, talk about Los Caneos.
You've heard us speak, and you see some of the pictures. We went back to the village of Los Caneos and La Sayaya, two little towns with dirt roads, uneven, rough dirt roads, bad, rocky, rough, uneven dirt roads. It took a long time to drive. We got there, the people were just very pleased to see us back. You can see them up there visiting. We were talking with them, walking in the streets, and they all had, those who were in the water committee, had their shirts that we have there. And they had their shirts, had them out, put them on special just for this occasion. They loved the water, and I tell you, it was so fun. Let me find the next picture. You can see some of the kids, some of the adults, Kenzie there, and people talking. That's what the town looks like. Those pretty cars in the back are ours. We had to wash them before we returned. That's true. And we look back at the work, and you see the work that's done there. This is all the work that's being done, putting the work, building the pieces. And they painted the water tower now with this logo, this emblem, and everything else on their water tower, which is above the city, or above the village, and it provides them some their pressure. And we witnessed success, and I tell you, this was the most heartwarming thing I've seen in much of my life, where I looked and watched clean water come out when you turn those taps. And that's just such a pleasure. The people love it. They open water and open the taps and come out. Those little girls we saw carry the water. We never saw little boys hardly ever carrying water. The little girls no longer have to carry water. They don't have to go to the streams. The old folks don't have to wait in line. It's right there. You are part of an amazing project that we did. We're looking at doing something similar this coming year. Next.
Actually, I think we have one more in that series. But there's what Jim's talking about is, we captured this, we felt their appreciation. We didn't know they were going to do this. This was a highlight and just a real heartwarming surprise when we looked up and we walked to that water tower. And here they had taken those t-shirts and we had brought them as gifts and had painted their entire water tower that we'd helped them build to match that t-shirt slogan that we had. So, and then they had dinner for us. If you see in the bottom right corner, that's Bill and I helping ourselves to some of the delicious goat meat that they served to us. And you'll notice in the bottom left corner it says Rotary Club of St. Cloud. That's in their water tower, in the footings of the water tower. So let's see, next I've got, oh yeah, I guess it's my turn to go next. So after having this great water project, why don't we do another one right away? Well, that's kind of the initial question where we'll start. This project this year was completely different. It was an ambulance project. How did we get to the point of doing an ambulance project? A total left turn from what we had done previously. Well, believe it or not, it actually started with the very first project. What you'll see here in this slide is photos from the first trip down there. If you see in the upper right corner, that's Marty with Dr. Compare. And in the bottom left corner is Kenzie with Dr. Compare. This is Clinica Sodidesa. This is what we saw actually on our very first scouting trip when we were down there. Dr. Compare was already talking to us in the fall of 2009 about doing something at his clinic. And so this was always kind of in the back burner and something that we were kind of looking at as a possible next project. You'll also notice in the bottom right corner, that's a picture from when the whole team was down there working on the water project. Dr. Colbert is the Rotarian on the far right in that picture. So he's been part of this from the beginning of our water projects, and now we came back to help him with his nonprofit clinic. So a little bit about the background. Our plan was to purchase and ship a used ambulance to this nonprofit clinic in San Domingo. Since we're going to try to send an ambulance down there, the thought was, why send it empty? Let's fill that thing up with as much as we can. We wanted to maximize our impact with as many donated items and services as we could. We were hoping to send a medical team down there to provide free services, and we wanted to send other Rotarians down as well to provide whatever support we could and work at the project. And then we were going to maximize again our presence down there by actually scouting out the next trip. So again, trying to maximize our time as best we could. Still with the overriding goal of not just sending money, but actually sending people. Getting our Rotarians down there with our feet on the ground, getting our hands dirty, actually meeting with the people and doing some good on site. And so that's always been kind of one of our overriding goals with these international projects. The funding, I talked a little bit earlier about the Rotary Foundation, and that's where sort of the biggest chunk of the financing comes from. But the matching grant program, if you're not familiar with it, is really kind of neat the way that it works. The Rotary Foundation, headquartered in Chicago, will match dollar for dollar money that's given from a district, and they'll match 1/2 the amount that's given by a club. Our district matches 1-to-1 with what our club gives. So if you follow the math here, and I've rounded a little bit, but if you just kind of follow along, you'll see we contributed from our own local foundation or club foundation $6,800. You'll remember none of that came from direct solicitation from you folks. That basically came from money that was put into the global fund through the money raised at Summertime by George last year. We also put another roughly $1,000 into it that we used for things that couldn't be funded by the grant, but that's another issue. So the Dominican Rotary Club, this year they stepped up. That first project, they didn't know us, they didn't know what we were able to do and how committed we were. They put $100 into it last time. This time, they stepped up to the tune of $2,000. We proved to them that we could do this, and they bought into it. Then our district contributed $6,800, and then the Rotary Foundation, with the way the math works that I explained, kicked in about $11,500, bringing the grand total to a little over $27,000 for this project. Out of our initial contribution, we didn't really even spend much of our own money for $6,800. We also, like I said, maximized donations. Centricare and other local medical companies donated a lot of the medical equipment that we put into the ambulance. Anderson Trucking, I don't know, I think most of you are aware, they actually donated the shipping of the ambulance from Jacksonville, Florida to Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic, so we didn't pay for that. Oakland Bus Service, frankly, gave us a screaming deal on that ambulance. I don't even remember now what the total amount was. Somebody could probably help me out, but it was around $10,000 or $11,000 that we paid for that ambulance. And then students from Sartell High School and from St. Cloud Christian School donated a whole bunch, and we figured there's probably between 500 and 600 pairs of shoes and other clothing and things like that that were all loaded in there as well. And then you, the St. Cloud Rotarians, donated your money, your time, your support through Some Time by George and all of your efforts to make this happen. So Steve, talk to us a little bit more about those donations.
Well, like Aaron, this really has been one of the highlights of my life, actually, having an opportunity to go down. This is one of those things where you always like to say you're maybe going down and contributing something, but you really get so much more in return. I mean, one of the highlights for me on this particular trip was having the opportunity to have my daughter go down, and ahead of time, collecting some shoes, and we actually had some money that was donated, so we showed up and played against sports. We just said we had $100, here's what we're doing, we're going down to the Dominican, and the manager just said, here, you can have this, and you can have this, and you can have this, and for about $100, we bought about $200 or $300 or $400 worth of baseball equipment too that had been a part of it. And so just to talk a little bit more specifically about these donations, I really want Madison to say a few words because Drew was fortunate to have his daughter as well, and she's just going to say a couple things about the donations that were received.
I know that my school and my student government, we collected 136 pairs of shoes plus a bag I forgot at home on accident. So that included flip-flops, not completely worn out tennis shoes, but usable tennis shoes. There was actually some baseball cleats in there. The funny part was people donated snow boots. That wasn't included in the 136. We did not bring those along because they do not need snow boots in the Dominican. But then again, I took some of these pictures and it was just amazing to see what you guys contributed along with what Mara and I did. We saw coloring books and just all the medical supplies and brand new shoes. It looked like people just went to Target and they just like cleaned off the shelves. And it was just really, really cool and it was a great experience for me too.
Thanks, Madison. That was, of course, a huge highlight for me to be able to have my daughter along and be able to share that experience with her. And then all of you, or many of you, were able to experience actually loading that ambulance. Be honest, how many of you didn't think the stuff in the parking lot was going to all fit in that ambulance? Okay, I definitely, there was no way I thought that was all going to fit in there, but somehow, miraculously, it did, and that was a fun experience too. So now, Jurgen's going to talk to us actually about the medical thing, and we're going to try to keep moving here. We've got about 10 minutes left, so Jurgen, tell us about the actual medical experience.
Thanks. I'd like to talk about, it was a great trip for me and sort of interesting how you can get outside of the comfort zone in central Minnesota. And what Steve said before, I learned a lot trying to get use medical equipment here, how friendly and helpful the hospital was, the companies we were dealing with, and the message for here in St. Cloud. I got more donations for free than I ever thought I would get. So after a long drive, we arrived on Monday morning at the clinic. It's about 30 minutes away. And if you have ever driven in the Dominican Republic, you're awake by then. And the clinic is mostly there for low-income patients and Haitian patients. Dr. Campier is Haitian himself, and they are a little bit sort of prejudiced against by the Dominicans themselves. And he has opened up a mostly free clinic for them. And what he did, we organized to do for 3 days in his clinic, and he, I think, advertised on radio and so on that doctors will come and it's free medical care. And he almost told off, and we were there for the next 3 days. And in the middle you can see the clinic. patients were all waiting outside in the sun there, so they needed help with it. And now you can look inside the clinic. We were 3 medical professionals. It was Heather, who is an NICU nurse, Bill's daughter, and Jennifer Dwyer, who is a physician assistant. And we split up. I saw patients with the nurse whose name unfortunately I forgot, but she was a lifesaver. She really helped me out there. I saw patients with joint problems. I did injections. I gave out medications. Heather saw mostly newborn babies, and Jennifer, I think, saw everyone else. And she really worked by far the longest, probably of all of us. She came always late at 6 o'clock or so out of the clinic. Lots of help. We had as translators and in the clinic who help with translation, help with handing out medications and triaging to make sure everyone gets to the right place. And I think especially for Jennifer, I think one patient was sent up there, and somehow another kid came, another kid came, another kid came that not necessarily were their own kids. And I think one of the points was we gave out some picture books that they really loved. And this is to give you a little bit the feeling how it was, how many friends we made, and how grateful the people were. I didn't hear anytime anyone complaining. Nobody was pushing ahead, and so it was really a wonderful experience. And I think now it gets to the improvement projects.
Aaron and I are going to do this next part together, so we're going to try to flip through this fairly quick story here.
For the non-medically trained folks that were along on the trip, we quickly realized, based on how many people were there to see the medical professionals, that our biggest way that we could provide some assistance is to jump in and help with them. So we spent a lot of time taking temperatures, weighing people, getting kind of those vital statistics and blood pressure, so that the medical professionals could see more people through the day. And the rest of our time, we painted, we changed doorknobs, we generally fixed up the clinic.
The only, I would say, disappointment that I had on the trip was dealing with the customs office up in Puerto Plata. It's on the north side of the island. Bill and I could tell you stories about all the driving that we did, because they went back and forth from there trying to get the ambulance released from customs, and then we were also driving around picking up supplies for the clinic and so forth. So the only real disappointment that I had was we didn't actually get to physically see the ambulance arrive at the clinic. And we had tried to time it so that it would literally arrive while we were there. We were looking forward to sort of that big ta-da moment. But you know, maybe there's sort of a lesson in that too, in that we weren't there for glory, and I think there wasn't really a need for us to experience that, but it would have been a lot of fun. As it was, these pictures that you see now up there on the screen were actually sent to us by Dr. Compere. And so we have proof the ambulance made it to the island. Not only did it make it to the island, but it actually made it out of the customs in Puerto Plata, and then down to the clinic, and you can see it there parked in front of the clinic. So it did make it. And then they did unload it. You can see them unloading it. Literally, Dr. Compere arrived at the clinic that night, that Thursday night, just before we left. And it was that night that they went and unloaded that whole ambulance. You can see them doing that in the dark. And then Aaron, you could talk, I think you were helping with some of the supplies that are stocking the shelves.
Yeah, we were able to bring as many supplies as we could in extra suitcases, which we stocked. This is actually showing the stock room here, fully stocked with all of the supplies from the ambulance. Literally, when we got there, every one of these shelves were empty.
And other supplies that we had purchased in Santo Domingo, we delivered over there, and they were stocking those as well. But it's amazing, these next few pictures now, you're going to see I wish we had pictures of how it looked before we arrived, and how empty the rooms were, but now look at some of these. You might recognize some of the equipment in some of these rooms. Some of the toys, the dental office. Well, let's see, did I? Yeah, I think that was it. Did I skip one? Oh, yeah, that's it. All right, I think we're doing okay here. We're just about done. On this one, I want to just talk that, you know, the last one finished up with the words "mission accomplished," and I hesitated. Aaron put that in there, and I hesitated to include it because I don't want it to be trivialized by the quote that's become infamous from our last president. But I hope you realize, from the standpoint of our mission, it was accomplished, and those pictures hopefully convey that clearly. And motivated, I think, everybody that experienced this and went on this to want to be involved in another one. I've heard from some that went on the first trip that they want to be involved in the next one. We've built some momentum here, and I think as long as you folks continue to support this, and we have people that are wanting to be involved, we're going to keep doing these international projects. And we've built some really neat partnerships already in the Dominican Republic. We actually worked with a different club on this project than we did on the previous club, but the previous club wants to work with us on the next one. And when you look in the upper right corner, what you see there is a meeting of some young Rotarians. Everyone at those tables, except those from our group, are young Rotarians, young professionals from Santo Domingo, and they're excited to work with us on our next project. So we have 3 Rotary clubs lined up in the Dominican Republic that all want to work with us on this next project. Okay, the next project is going to be a big one, and Pat's not here to talk about it. He's our international projects coordinator for this coming year. But we literally are looking at providing water systems to 5 villages in the rural part of the Dominican Republic. And so think of what we did in Los Caneos and multiply that times 5. That's our goal for this year, and we think it's doable. We're working with the Peace Corps again. The Peace Corps now, just like the previous, the Rotary Club down there knows, they know we get things done. They've got their guy in charge of volunteer coordination working with us directly. In fact, he's in this picture in the your upper left. Unfortunately, he's kind of in the shadow. You can see Bill, and then you can see Aaron closest, but in the middle is Gabrielle Miller. Gabrielle is the coordinator of volunteers in the Dominican Republic, and he took us on a tour of 3 of the 5 villages, and he's been in communication with Pat and I about coordinating this next project. And one of the really cool things is we figured out how much money we can get into at the maximum amount to still qualify for just a matching grant and not a competitive grant. And if anybody's interested, I can explain the difference later. But he's gone to some gold mining companies in this region. Believe it or not, gold mining is an industry in the Dominican Republic near Cotuí. And they are required by their government, in order to mine gold, to give back money to local projects. He's tapped into that. And the gold mining companies are going to be participating with us, together with the Peace Corps, together with 3 other Rotary clubs, to do this next project. So is that cool? I mean, I hope you guys think that's pretty cool. The other thing that's really neat is, again, people when you start doing things, momentum builds. And what you'll see in the bottom left corner is one of the community organizations in one of the communities who, for the last year, they've already been collecting money toward their water project because they heard that we might be doing this. So they already have money in the bank that they're already holding to put towards this water project, because there is maintenance costs involved as well. So that's what that group is. The other group, we are meeting with the water committee on the bottom right of one of the other communities that we'll be working with. And then finally, and I want to let Steve wrap up with this, and I apologize for holding you over, but I will be just about done. Steve, why don't you wrap up with sort of the final story here?
The last story was completely unprepared, and we weren't prepared for it. But when we were at the clinic, and many people were coming in, Heather Maney came into the room that we were sitting in, which was kind of like where all the foreigners were sitting and where we were doing our prep work and talking as a team. And she had this baby. And this baby was named Kendi, after Kenzie Kramer, a woman who Kenzie had become very good friends with, had this baby at a young age, but it had hydrocephalus. And she had traveled all the way from Los Caneos to come down to the clinic in Santo Domingo to bring the baby to see if the baby could get any help. And so we sat there in that room in Santo Domingo and we said, is there anything we can do? And some of us who aren't medical professionals, I mean, our hearts, I mean, I say medical professionals because they see this every day probably, or they see situations where, you know, children are in need, and they are able to cope and deal with it. some of us who don't see it every day are a little bit more just, we couldn't believe, there had to be something we could do to help this baby. So we pulled out the video camera, shot a video, and then we uploaded it to our YouTube channel, and we started to say, could we do something to see if we could get this baby, maybe get her to the States and get the operation. And in the end, what really happened was, thanks to a wonderful person in our office, Janet McConkey, who works at the Community Foundation, she helped us put this up on a website to raise some money. Over $2,000 was donated. And then she had some connections back in the Dominican Republic, who made some connections with Dr. Comper, and the long and short of it is, this baby did get a shunt, which was what was needed for treating hydrocephalus, to relieve the pressure that had been built up. Basically, hydrocephalus is, they don't have drainage, and the pressure just builds, and you can see, even in this photo, the head was just extended because of this buildup of pressure, and all the baby needed was a shunt to relieve that pressure. So when they were out scouting, a team of us stayed into Santo Domingo. We went to a couple of hospitals, and when we showed up at the Children's Hospital, they said, well, that's really great, you need help for this baby, but get in line because there's 1,800 children in front of you. And however, if you go out and bring your own shunt, we can get you in there quicker. And so we thought, well, okay, where do you get a shunt? And unfortunately, we really weren't able to do anything that day while we were there, but when we got back, Pat Edderburn had some connections back at Medtronic, and at Medtronic they make shunts. And again, long story short, we were able to get a shunt donated. Then we had the trouble of getting it down to the Dominican Republic, and again, thanks to Anderson Trucking, who had a plane that was leaving to go down to Florida, and somebody from the Dominican was going to be in Florida and meet the plane, get the shunt, and then they took it down into the Dominican Republic, and then they had done surgery 8 hours before, or 24 hours before. So that shunt did not make it to Kendi. Kendi did get the surgery because of these other connections, but we had 2 shunts donated by Medtronic, and we know that one of those shunts, though, went to help another baby who had hydrocephalus. So not just 1, but 2. And so a lot of things were going on behind the scenes, and I guess one thing I'd like to say first is thank you to all of you who contributed to support baby Kendi. We know that baby Kendi may not have a very long life expectancy, even with the shunt. There's complications with infections and all kinds of other things, but at least we were able to do a small part. And I think, again, the education level for us is that there's a lot of people in need in the Dominican, and we have some abilities here to have an impact. If you think about this project in its entirety, $6,800 raised by Summertime by George and this club literally is making a difference in hundreds, if not thousands of people in the Dominican Republic who don't have access to health care in this clinic. $6,800. For about $7,200, we have literally brought water to a village of 800 to 1,000 people who did not have running water before, now have running water, thanks to the work of the St. Cloud Rotary Club. So all of you hopefully will feel proud about the work that's been happening in the Dominican. A huge thank you to Drew for his leadership, because this is the second team that he's led down there, but to all of the team members who have taken time off to go there. And I would just say what I said earlier, any of us who had that opportunity, we have gotten far more back from this brief experience. And I'd encourage you all to think about going yourself, taking a family member, and experiencing what is happening with the international projects with St. Cloud Rotary. So thanks for all your support.
Thanks everybody, and this program ran long, and I really don't like to do that to you. All of us that were on the team are willing to stay up here if you do have any questions afterwards, but I want to let you get moving, and just as last week, I'm pulling out the, what did we call it last week, the blue and gold bags or something like that, and I take it out of the Pick Me bag, which is the blue one right now. If your name is drawn and you're not here, it's going into the, well, it's going in the gold bag either way. It was drawn until we get a winner. So I think George won last week and donated it to the foundation. Mike Mullen, is Mike still here? Mike left. All right, well, not to be seen again until the other bag is empty. So who's next? Mark Runzel. Mark is still here. No, Mark over here. Mark. All right, you're the winner, Mark. You're the winner today. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Lord.
Let's see, and then Captain Halleck was supposed to join us, but only Tuesday, and John I know couldn't make it. So between
So, given your experience with that would be a start.
I mean, that's what, again, the videos are super nice.